Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. All of those little developments along the way, I don't know, maybe it enhances your coaching career too. You really get to see sort of like some of the foundational movement skills of humans along the way. You're so used to seeing sort of some of the high flyers and the top athletes in the province and in the country. So seeing some of this developmental stuff must be really cool too, especially with like your brain and like all the places you've been and all the things you've learned along the way. You kind of revert back. We just had a I think it was talking with the performance team down at Brock, and Steve Lidstone was getting into some of the stuff with fundamental development, talking about his kids and the development, and just comparing that to athletes that you work with now. So cool, very cool. I'm really happy to hear you're making the most of it too. It's an amazing little thing that everybody we've had on has really taken this as an opportunity to make something better, to change for in maybe a different facet of life. Other than parenthood, have you been able to get into anything new aside from professional stuff?
Aside from professional stuff, we've been in our house. So I'm based in Scarborough at the Toronto Pan Am Sports Centre, and we moved out to a house close by there. And like Scarborough, it's beautiful. It's really, really nice place to live. And yes, we like lots of greenery, lots of forests and all that stuff. So we moved into this place last year, around like just over a year ago. And so I've just been doing like a lot of landscaping, a lot of work in the backyard. I know it sounds pretty mundane, but that's what I've been getting into. That's about as exciting as it gets, but it's been actually really, really nice. And I don't know, just nice to be outside, be around the house and do something with my hands.
Yeah, beautiful. Nice little transition. I think I've been sunburnt more times since being back in Toronto than I got. I'm just not as diligent with the sunscreen. So I hope you're faring better than I am, getting outside with the landscaping and growing things better. Our little puppy just dug up everything that I replanted today. I walked outside and he had dug up we had beets. I had just transferred them out of the pots into the garden. And now they're on the patio. So that's fine. I mean, that is what it is. We live and learn. Don't put the dog outside with the, I don't know. Anyway, so how about your role in terms of like how you're managing from home? You guys are just staying connected and obviously waiting like everybody else in terms of like when we're going to be able to do things. How has that model worked in terms of integrating your staff, integrating with athletes from home? Has that been all right for you? Obviously difficult, but any positives coming from that?
It's been, I mean, for me, it's been like a total whirlwind, like a really unusual circumstance, but I started this new job. I was supposed to start in April part-time and then support the swimming program through till Tokyo, and then was going to transition full-time after Tokyo. And then basically when we got back on March 13th, it was just started getting pretty involved with the corporate side of our organization, and then basically just didn't look back. Became pretty full on. Ended up starting full time pretty much straight away, And so still continue to be involved with the swimming program, continue to support as best I could, but for the most part, they've been on hiatus. And so if somebody asks for something, somebody asks for like a strength program, or somebody asks for like a circuit they can do at home, then certainly happy to do that. And we tried to set up our athletes with the appropriate equipment that they need to be able to train from home. But
Right.
other than that, it's things in the training front on the swim program has been pretty quiet. And I've just conveniently removed myself and shifted into this other role, and it's been crazy. Like, it's been really, really hectic. Definitely one of the more unusual times in the history of our organization. I think the history of anyone's organization. So this has been unusually busy, but it's a completely different kind of role. But what I found that's been a lot of joy, it's been a lot of fun for me, is that there's so much coaching still. It's all about coaching like people and trying to find a way to do that virtually over Zoom or over Microsoft Teams has been interesting. And I catch myself on some days, if it's like back to back to back to back to back, I get pretty poor. Pretty poor. And just not really preparing and not giving people my best. And I recognize that after the fact and kick myself and try to be a little bit better next time. But I think if you do it right and you do the appropriate preparation and take it seriously, it's really good opportunity for one-on-one coaching, one-on-one support of staff, of teams. And there's, throughout this last 3 months, just exploring different ways of connecting with people virtually. We don't have the opportunity to just walk down the hall and see people. So that's been really, it's been useful, because you're just seeing different ways that we can be in the future once we kind of get out of the back end of this. Like, the first thing I did in my new role was just meet individually with all of our team members. We had 33 staff at the time, so just doing individual meetings with all of them, getting to know what they what some of the things they found challenging with the organization, some of the things that I could help them with in their particular role, and some of the suggestions they had for our organization to grow. And so that was really, really valuable, just to get to know everybody a little bit. And it didn't matter if it was virtually or if it was in person, it was still the same outcome. And then after that, just making sure that scheduling regular meetings with people, with our team. And then what I've started doing, if we have subgroup meetings, like our therapy team will meet, or our strength and conditioning group will meet, or our sports science group will meet, I'll just join those meetings and either listen, hear the updates from everybody, give my updates, and just get a chance to get to know people and spend a little bit more time with them in ways that I normally wouldn't. So that's been a really good outcome of that, is just to get to know a lot more about the details, the ins and outs of how everybody works, that I wouldn't have done otherwise, I don't think. So there's definitely been some positives. It's been a huge shift.
Yeah. And it's been a huge shift for everybody. Obviously we acknowledge that to this point, but we're all kind of in it together, and what a cool way to sort of integrate into a new job. Like, you have all the mayhem of transitioning into a new role that's a little bit different than what you're used to, and at the same time you have to overhaul everything that you've done. So it sounds like you've done an awesome job, and again, you bring up sort of this common theme that we've had on these chats, and that's putting, no matter where you are, is putting the person that you're dealing with at the forefront, and really sort of getting to know that human being on the other end of the call, or in the room, or in the water, or whoever you're working with, wherever you're working, and what a difference that makes. I'm sure they're very impressed and happy that you're taking the time. It's also great. I mean, you can be everywhere in the world at the same time, right? And that's probably hasn't been common in the past, just because of you're in on the meetings that you can get to in person, but virtual meetings happen, but not as regularly as they do now. So have you felt like the staff is feeling the same way about the interactions to date? Like, you're just having these opportunities that you might not have had?
I think so. I think everyone's really appreciated the opportunity to do some additional professional development and try to find a different way to communicate. I definitely do. I think that I've heard from a number of people who are really typically hyper focused on what they're doing and don't get a chance to take off the glasses and look around and to just chat with their teammates. We have staff who like a satellite location in Milton, a satellite location up at York, actually, at the track. And those staff are typically just there all the time, and we don't necessarily connect with each other. And so this has been a really good opportunity for everybody to get together. I've heard that from a number of individuals who typically feel disconnected, and yeah, they feel like this can continue. They feel like they realize that they can actually, you don't have to be in the same physical space. You can connect with people and have meaningful conversations, meaningful relationship and development remotely as well.
Yeah, some huge points in terms of management as well for all the practitioners that are on, is just to connect with people while you can connect with people, because if and when things go back to the way they were, which I don't think they're going to, but there'll be a different way after this, really highlighting that connectedness and those resources. You touched on continuing education, and there's been so much free content out there. People doing things through the NSCA, through all the Canadian practitioner core groups and all those kinds of things. How did you sort of manage getting to where you are now? I mean, I know you started out in 2011, right? Starting in some of these performance stuff and through the Canadian Olympic and Paralympic stuff. How did you get to that point? And then how did you navigate sort of through up until this point into the role that you're at? Obviously resources, and I touched on resources being available now. So like your learning along the way obviously had a lot to do with that. And then maybe we'll dive into some of the punny things like diving into swimming and some of the things you've worked in. But to get to 2011 when you started, and then from 2011 to 2020, maybe just break it up that way if you can.
Yeah, sure. So I started as a competitive swimmer. So that's my background. That was my passion, and that's probably one of the reasons why I invested so much into that over the last 7.5, 8 years. Mm-hmm. But I did my master's at Western in kinesiology and biomechanics, and during that time, I was also a strength coach for the varsity swim program, and just had some good opportunities at that time. The Canadian Sport Institute Ontario that I work with now. They had a couple of staff who were working with some of the athletes in our program who were, we had 2 Olympians in our program at the time. And so I just got to shadow them, and it was kind of my job to learn from them, and take some of that knowledge and apply it on the day-to-day training environment back at Western. So that was a really unique opportunity that was a big part because of the people, because of the athletes that were in our program. And so I was very fortunate because of that, because it opened up some doors early on in my career. And prior to that, I spent some time coaching swimming. But yeah, it was really through that process that I got to know what it was like to be a sports scientist and be involved in strength coaching, and yeah, just to be a coach in general. And then after that, I was as soon as I finished my master's at the end of 2010, I planned to continue on in that program. We had regional training centers for rowing and for swimming in London, and so basically had a job lined up there through the sports center at the time, and to be a strength and conditioning coach for those programs, and to provide sports science support, so that staff didn't have to drive all the way from Toronto to London to do testing and do all that stuff. So I was going to be the resident person doing that. And then, and then a buddy of mine called me up, and he just said, I've got a coaching job out in Halifax. Are you interested? Yeah. So I thought, this one thing I'm doing right now, this is great. Like, this is where I grew up in London. Just could continue on a path that I was going on. Or I could do something different. And so I just decided I'm just going to try this other thing. I really like coaching. And so I just wanted to try my hand full time at coaching. I was with just younger, like 11 to 14-year-old swimmers. But yeah, it was a really good opportunity. They had a few good senior athletes, so I got to be involved, like as their resident sports scientist on the staff, to be able to provide like video feedback and in different areas of support. And we actually had one of the coaches was a massage therapist. So it worked out really well. The head coach of the program was trying to build his own sports science and medicine team within his coaching staff. So so that worked out really well. And that's one of the reasons why he wanted me to be there, is just to like augment that staff and really provide something different than what they were already doing.
Right.
And that was a lot of fun. And they were really good to me on a personal level, the coaching staff there. And they set me up with a mentorship opportunity that was out in Victoria at the time for a competition. So I traveled with the team. It was basically like, it was a way for me to pay for me to travel with our team to Victoria for a competition, but then stay another week and learn from the sports scientists out at the Sports Center Pacific out in Victoria. And
awesome.
it was really awesome. It was a really cool opportunity. And then a job posting came up while I was there at the Sports Center Pacific. And so I applied and ended up getting that job. So it was, I wasn't going to do it. Like I told my buddy who had hired me out in Halifax that I wasn't going to move, but I wanted to be straight up that I applied for this job. And he was supportive. He had supported me the whole way along. And then I ended up, like I said, I was successful in that role, and it was a complete change, providing biomechanics support to winter sport programs based in Whistler. So I ended up just finishing out coaching the season in Halifax and split my time 50-50, flying, like kind of doing 6 weeks in Halifax, 6 weeks in Whistler, and just back and forth until the end of the summer, and then was full time in the new job. And it was just, and it was really just through people I knew, and I really do believe that there was connections that I made along the way who gave me that opportunity. And the person who hired me then still continues to this day to be a mentor. He helped me get the job I'm in right now, or the previous one, and then the one I'm in right now, just by being a reference and being a really good mentor along the way. So I think if you find good people, good mentors throughout your career, and work with them and find ways for them to help you grow your career, and just take their advice, even if it doesn't make sense at the time. There's usually a reason. They know better. So that was huge for me, just realizing that if you have the right people in your corner, you can really get to anything.
You also you bring up some good stuff with like your, doing your master's and doing some internship and putting yourself in a position too. It's not just who you know, but it's, I had a really good friend of mine who's a colleague and mentor, who's been on here as well. Scott Howitt. I don't know if you're familiar. I think you are, actually. I think he said you guys roomed together at, Okay. So anyway, he reached out to me and he was saying something. We were just sort of chatting back and forth, and he said, it's not necessarily who you know, but it's knowing somebody who knows your value and knows where you can apply that value at the same time. And it's sort of a reciprocal relationship, because deep within all of us, I think, maybe humans as a whole, but definitely people in the sports performance realm, we want to help other people. So if we can help each other sort of, move on and build trust and good relationships through our networks, and help each other, sort of climb the ladder or find the right fit for our skill set, I think that goes a long way for sure. And timing too, like you talked about being in the right place at the right time a couple times through your journey. That's sort of unpredictable, but it helps obviously to know people and sort of put yourself in that position. You interned. Do you guys use interns through CSIO now? I know there's a few people on here that'll probably ask that question. So how does that work with CSIO or the Olympic networks that you're working with?
Yes. Short answer is yes. It's not something that we've been particularly good at. Since I've been here, we had some undergraduate interns that would help out second, third, fourth year students through U of T, and that was we've had I think 2 people come through that who were really who ended up becoming either long-term employees or researchers who we have a strong tie with. So we've had some good out of it, but it was really like a 10% chance of somebody actually being successful. There just wouldn't be enough time. So somebody was at the Institute 1 day a week, or 1 day every 2 weeks, or whatever it was, you end up trying to teach the same thing every week or every whatever it is, and you just don't get anywhere. So it's actually more of an investment than you get. It's not I wouldn't even call it an investment. There's more time to put in than you really get out of it. And I never felt that those were that impactful either. So we kind of moved away from that, from the undergraduate interns, and moved towards graduate interns. Especially if there was a funded research project, or even just like a research partnership, that became a really good way to partner with some students, or I guess interns. And then more recently, we've kind of gone back to that. I've had, I think, 3 or 4 students, 3 or 4 years in a row, through Guelph Humber, who came out between 3rd and 4th year, students who are really good, and they were either fully embedded or kind of 50% of their time spent with the sport programs, either in the sport lab and just helping out with a bunch of different areas. And so that was super valuable. I was just talking to an athletic therapist on our staff, who's having an intern athletic therapist through the Sheridan College, who's going to help with, so that's going to be starting in September. And maybe I shouldn't say this, but
we hope.
Yeah, we hope. And that's the thing, like, it sounds like a lot of people haven't been able to see through their internships because the OUA fall sport sprawl, like all their competitions were canceled. All those programs were canceled. And so I think they're hoping that some placements could still work out, and we're planning to open up more fully back to normal in September after the long weekend. So, and we are already reopening in a very gradual way. So, I think that can work out, but we don't know yet. But she had last year, I think, had 3 students, AT students, supporting through the summer. So there's different ways, and depending on the groups, our nutrition team will always have a nutrition intern who needs their hours for their program coming through the dietetics program. And then, usually our therapy team has somebody coming through. And then sports science team, we usually have somebody helping out in the lab, 1, 2, or 3 people. So it's kind of like gone in waves, and we don't have a really good handle on it. So that's actually something that over the next, hopefully 3 months, maybe a little bit longer than that, we're actually going to develop an internship strategy, and how we're going to develop interns around sports science, strength conditioning, and really, have a sustainable strategy in place so that we can bring people in. They can add value to what we're doing. We can add value to them in their careers. And if the timing works out, and if the people work out, then maybe it can extend into a longer term partnership. We have a better career pathway now, where you kind of move from that intern as you're going through university. You come out of university, you go through an apprenticeship. And this is for strength and conditioning coaches and sports scientists, which we didn't used to have before. And so it's paid a little bit. It's paid like half the salary of what you would be paid if you were a full-time employee, but you gain a lot of mentorship along the way. And it's really, really valuable, and it's been really successful. And I think we've had 3 staff members go through that, a 2-year apprenticeship program, and they've come out the other side and they're now invaluable practitioners within the programs they support. So
they get to know the inside as well, and they get to know you guys and how you work and your systems and structures. I think it's brilliant. It makes sense to have something that's sustainable and helps both ways, for sure. It certainly adds value to any facet of sports performance, to be in a high performance center and see sort of how things work, how communications happen, what that team looks like. And all those kinds of things. When you say sports science and you were a biomechanist with a bunch of different sports, have you found that, I don't know, I guess like the usage of video and like all the technological advancements, have you found that there's a lot of sort of people that are not highly qualified using this stuff and sort of, preaching certain things that may not be founded in factual knowledge? I mean, I'm guessing that's a yes, but how do you sort of combat that and sort of support the legitimacy of what you guys do, obviously with the backing that you have?
Yeah, so we don't have any certification or regulatory body. So little bit more difficult to straight off the bat evaluate somebody's competency.
Right.
Whereas if you have those things in place, then you're kind of, what if you have the letters by your name, then you can kind of say, you know, I'm competent, I've gone through this skill, I'm qualified to do what I'm doing.
We hope, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean everything, but it's an important part of the process.
Yeah.
With my experience in that, it's really just, well, okay, I've got a bit of a story, but not that long of a story. But this is something that really, over the last like 3 years within my discipline in Canada, this has been something that's causing a lot of grief to a lot of practitioners. And to your point, it's not even really it's not people who aren't qualified. It's people in other fields of practice who have access to the technology because it is accessible. Like you can use your iPhone now or any kind of phone, and you have a high quality camera, and also a 9-axis inertial sensor. You have a lot of different tools within a pressure sensor. You have a lot of different tools within your phone that can serve as a really cool device. And there's a lot of really valuable apps that can provide various physical assessment or technical assessment. And so it really democratizes the whole sport technique assessment side of things.
Right.
And so what we've really just, so we see that, I guess, in strength coaches, we see that in sports scientists or different modalities of therapy. We're doing these things, but everyone looks at things through the same lens. Everything will look at a technique through the same lens. And it's your training, your background, your knowledge of the theory, your ability to apply the theory, and your past experiences, which really differentiate the result. Which really differentiate your viewpoint of what you communicate across to the athlete or whoever's on the other side. So we really just tried to hammer home that we don't own tool. We don't own video analysis and biomechanics. We don't own any of these other tools. Anybody can use them. It's how we interpret and provide feedback on that. That's what's going to differentiate us. So we came out with a couple of different position stance papers around our discipline, recommendations for where our discipline should go in the future, and just sharing some case studies of best practices so that we created better awareness of what we can do. Because what was happening is I think a lot of people in my discipline were feeling marginalized, like others were doing the job that they felt was their job. And it's not just about anybody can collect data or collect information. It's how you use it to make a difference. And so we really just put a huge emphasis on that side of things, and making sure that other sports scientists, other, I guess people who are in my position now, we're really aware of the value that we could bring. So I think that everybody can and should be using technology to help performance. I think it's important to understand the limitations of the tools that you use to evaluate performance. And if you don't know what the limitations are, then it's probably a good indication that your knowledge on that side of thing is limited, and you have to take all the information you're getting with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's great. I think it's great. It's great advice. You see so much out there right now. Again, coming back around to sort of where we started in terms of the resources that are available right now, and everybody posting like 7-minute HIIT workouts and these kinds of things, and you don't really know where the context is in some of those things. So I think that's it. That's sort of been the thread that ties all practitioners that have been on here, is providing the context with the content, and that's how you're going to really resolve any issue or have positive outcomes for your athletes or your clients or your athletes or your patients, depending on who you're seeing. So really appreciate the insight. I think that's hugely beneficial, especially for ATs as well, that are sort of in the same boat in terms of not necessarily having the backing or the acknowledgement of national bodies at this point. I mean, they're working towards that, but at the same time, letters after the name don't necessarily mean anything if you can't apply the knowledge and apply the data that you collect or whatever. So I really appreciate it. That's great insight for everybody listening, and for myself certainly on the same level. You did some work with like some I would say drastically different sports, right? Like freestyle skiing, you have 2 sticks underneath your feet. And then snowboarding, you have one that goes sideways, and then swimming is on melted snow. So like, or in melted snow, I guess. How do you vary that role, your role in those very different sports? So pretty simple for you in terms of like your seamless application. Do you spend a lot of time getting to know the movements, the athletes, what's required of that sport? How do you go about addressing individual sports, whether you're familiar with them or not?
Yeah, it's a really tricky thing because so if I started working with, hypothetically, started working with freestyle skiing, they may look at me and ask me what my background is in freestyle skiing, and if I say absolutely nothing, they may look at me and say, "Oh, well, you're not qualified to be able to provide value." I was fortunate in that when I started working with those winter sports, they actually had been working with some people who came from completely different backgrounds who were able to add value to the programs, and so they weren't so narrow-minded or narrow-focused as that. They were actually able to see that it doesn't matter what your background is, you're coming and looking at a sport with a different lens can actually provide a lot more value than if you're coming and looking at it with the same lens that every coach looks at it with. So they were very open-minded, and that was really that really helped me in my career just realize and appreciate that you need to be able to look at things from multiple different perspectives. And I've carried that over throughout my whole career. When trying to build teams or support our teams, we've actually become more and more narrow over the years. I've been in a program where we became more and more narrow over the years, and I really fought to bring in outside people against other staff members' judgment or preference. I really wanted to have diversity of thinking, diversity of ideas, and if we became too comfortable and too consistent's the wrong word, but too routine with what we were doing, then we weren't going to be able to move forward and really innovate and improve. We just become comfortable.
That's it. That is huge, I think, for myself to hear, and certainly for anybody who's sort of just coming out of school or moving into practitioner or looking for a role or looking for a job or looking to get in somewhere that they don't feel they have the experience in. It also comes down to sort of who you know and timing of things, but who's on the other side. They have to be willing to be open-minded enough, and I love the way that you keep referring to different lenses to see things and different perspectives, because that's how change and growth happen, I think, in performance sport, right? Like we get I love it, like too narrow focused, you sort of get the blinders on, and if you can step back and revert to sort of a more holistic or a global or a 30,000 foot view, definitely that's huge. So how about some of the nitty gritty with those sports, like biomechanics of snowboarding versus freestyle swimmer or butterfly swimmer? Like these are very different. When it came to your role in terms of analyzing data, you don't have to give away your secrets. I don't know what other Olympic committee members might be listening in on here. So we need to own the podium, continue to own the podium as Canadians. So don't give away too many secrets. But what does a day look like as a biomechanist? I know that's not your current role, but what was that like for you, poolside, and then I guess hillside, or were you inside? You didn't have to actually be on the hill. How did those ones look?
Yeah, I mean, all pretty similar. If I'm just going to oversimplify it, but it would begin just collecting some data, whether that's maybe not even data, but helping out with the warm up or the preparation process. So that could be through leading exercise and leading a warm up for the athletes, or it could be through doing some form of monitoring vertical jump performance as a way of just tracking changes in fatigue, something that we were doing with the freestyle skiers. Or it could be, I mean, that's probably the best way to frame starting the day, just getting things warmed up, finding a way to make sure that we have our baseline set. And then, so I could either be leading something or I could be observing something. And then getting onto the field of play. So if that's on the ski hill, just having the appropriate equipment, to making sure that my equipment's all ready to go, that I've planned that out the night before, and that everything is seamless when I get there, that there's no minimal hiccups along the way. And so if it's in the pool, I would have video cameras, video setup, making sure that I'm very comfortable with using everything. And then it would be a matter of filming the athletes either from a position in the stands and looking at a global perspective of their performance in a race, or maybe it's really in detail filming underwater video and looking at the nuances of the technique, and potentially using other tools like force sensing hand paddles to look at the direction and application of force in throughout a stroke. In freestyle skiing, I was more just filming runs, and what I did before I actually started with them, I did a project where I looked at all of their competition footage from the previous year, and just looking at in mogul skiing, jump height off of the first jump, and then the times from the first jump to the second jump height, and then the total time for the final split, and then the total time for the run, and then using the judging scores and doing some deeper analysis on what some of the trends were in the sport, so I could really get an idea of it. And then I would do that kind of analysis at competitions, and by having gone through the previous analysis and really understanding what's important for the sport, I actually could provide like global feedback that maybe they weren't getting. So maybe the coach, in some of those instances, the coach would be super technical focused, and so I could just provide a global view, and then be able to augment some of the feedback he's given to the athletes. And then in some cases with snowboard, let's say it's a half pipe snowboard, looking at similarly jump height and looking at the line that they're taking into the berm. Oh geez, It's been almost 10 years. And then how much height they're getting on each jump. And we can look at things like pressure sensors in the boots to see when they're actually pushing through the boots as they're going up, and what's leading to higher jump height. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can develop more knowledge about the sport and more knowledge about the individuals, and then really look to like, what's the simplest measure that I can take to give them some meaningful feedback that's actually going to help their performance. And then so when it comes competition day, or when it comes the training day, and we just want to be able to provide quick feedback, if we can simplify things to just one number that I know is related to a few other things, and that's usually been pretty beneficial. So yeah, it's usually some form of on-field measurement would be part of the day. In freestyle skiing and in snowboarding, I hated getting really cold. Like, I love skiing. I actually really loved skiing, and I hadn't skied for like 7-8 years before I started that job. And I was I think I was on snow almost 300 days in the year. It was ridiculous. So you just deal with the cold, but it's awesome because you get to be there in the environment. You get to learn a few things, and so being able to just provide some base level feedback. The athletes really value that. The coaches value that. And then I just made sure that I learned a little bit more about the nuances of the sports along the way, so I could provide meaningful feedback. In snowboard cross, we looked at like how the technique of pulling themselves out of the starting gate, and what was the most effective way to get first at the turn. Because through additional analyses, we learned that if you're the first around that first turn, you had a much higher likelihood of winning that race. So we looked at a few strategies. We developed some specific knowledge around the event, and I'm kind of going all over the place here. I know it's just the way my brain is right now, but
no, it's everybody's brain, and you're not at all. Like, you're keeping us dialed in. It's really cool to hear sort of some of the insights with the different sports and how you've adjusted to them, for sure. And you're touching on some great stuff for everybody, regardless of their roles, sort of getting to know the sport, getting to know the nuances as you move along. And meaningful feedback is always obviously clutch in terms of making an impact for coaches or for athletes or as a practitioner, right? So it's amazing to hear, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on here that this may be a first, hearing somebody who's in your role, and definitely having access to your insight through your career is massive for all of us. So again, really appreciate you being here. And the snow stuff, like well, yeah, I don't know how you would do that 300 days a year. You got to get some sort of insulated everything, I guess, to wear and just be trudging around. Yeah.
But in the summer, you're like, sometimes we're on a glacier and it's sunshine, it's warm down below, and then you're up top on the glacier, whatever, 10,000 feet, 12,000 feet, and it's actually pretty nice. You can take off your coat and just kind of hang out, get a sunburn.
Yeah.
It's not always that bad. It can actually be pretty nice, and it was a really cool way to see the world. That's for sure. See different places you'll never see. And like I said, I love to ski, and you can always sneak in a couple runs. So
there you go.
It's not all bad.
Yeah. Perks of the job, and not too many people can say that was their office. They could be in hot weather and on a glacier, and that was their work. So really cool to hear about that. In the pool, you talked about sort of not necessarily having a background in the sport, but swimming you had a massive background in, and then you worked in swimming. Did you ever find it difficult to sort of separate yourself from the athlete lens to the now I'm working with athletes? Was that a tough transition for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I came in with a lot of biases. I was really I knew the way historically I would have looked at things, but what I found is working in a different sport, working in freestyle skiing, working in snowboarding, understanding different sport cultures, working with them those different athletes in the gym, seeing how different athletes train in their field of play, and then also, like I said, in the gym, and being forced to kind of go back to square one and live a day in the coach's shoes, do some coaching courses I had an experience where I was teaching just a basic biomechanics course for a group of ski coaches, and then they had their on snow parts. I came along with them and just followed along with their skiing, how do you carve, how to do all those things. And that was really cool because there are a couple of the coaches there. They just they were good buddies of mine at the time, and they just let me they just taught me some of the ropes, and were patient enough to teach me a few things. And then I was able to then use that to add value as well to the program, because I got to understand things a little bit better. So just being forced to listen, ask questions, not make any assumptions. Coming back to the sport that I knew really well, I actually looked at it from a completely different perspective. And so that was a huge thing for me is if you stay in the same sport that you've always been in, not only can you become pigeonholed in that, but also you just start to look a little bit, look like I said, through a narrow lens. And so having the chance to see something a little bit differently, be challenged a little bit in a different way, and then come back in, I felt like I was able to add way more value because I had the base understanding, coaching experience. I felt competent and confident coaching an athlete. And then also the technical side of things. But what I did when I came back is I just reached out to some experts, and I just asked a lot of questions, and just made sure that I understood, why we do the things that we do. And one of the first projects I was involved with, or I took on, was just developing basic technique and skill checklists. So these are the movements that we're looking for, and it's just a binary answer. You did it or you didn't. And this is just to help some developmental coaches. But more than anything, it just helped me really confirm what we were looking for and develop a model for success, and recognizing that there's not one way to do it that's going to be best for everybody, but at least having a general model to approach analyzing technique is a really important way to start.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly insightful. Again, in every aspect, there's I don't know if we just started unpacking all of our books in the past couple of days, and you talk about making a checklist that's binary, and it brings me to okay, great cook, and the FMS and the SFMA, and these sort of really in-depth screens, but they're very easy to follow with 1, 2, or 3, or yes or no. And also a book called The Checklist Manifesto. I don't know if you've read it, but it's Atul Gawande, and then just an MD who wrote a book about utilizing checklists in the healthcare professions and how you could reduce chronicity of disease and all kinds of, infection in hospitals and things like that by simply using a checklist. Have you washed your hands? Have you done that? So sometimes breaking it down in something that really, really well, refining it to something simple goes a long way. Definitely in the amateur level, which is where I wanted to take the next question. The application of like biomechanics and in high level makes a ton of sense, where we're trying to shave percentages of a second, or trying to outduel somebody in a sport, or just gain time or effectiveness or efficiencies. Is there application for some of that stuff at the amateur levels, where potentially we can impact some of the chronic injuries, for say, like we see somebody who's, I don't know, maybe they're a 16-year-old female swimmer and they have ongoing shoulder stuff issues. Do you think there's room, and do you think there's opportunity for that to enter it, or is it already, I guess, in the swimming fields or snowboarding or skiing, biomechanics at those lower levels, where we can have, you feel like that's an inroads that could be accessed?
100%. So one of the reasons I love working in high performance sport is that everybody wants to be there, and they, for the most part, they're going to look for every opportunity to get better. Now, that's not true across the board. I've worked with some like more developmental athletes who hadn't quite figured out whether they actually wanted to be there, or if they're just there because they were good. So I think that it's easy and it's really rewarding when people take on the feedback and they see themselves improve, and it's justification for what you've done. And it takes a lot of time to get there and kind of crack that egg. But once you do, you can see massive improvements. At the developmental level, my experience has been, it's just some people take it and some people don't. You have more of a mix of people who want to be there, who are keen, some who are just doing it because, they're just there. Their parents want them to doing an activity, or they want to be doing what their friends are doing. So there's a lot of people who don't care enough for it to really be beneficial, or whose parents will shell out the extra dough so that they can get the latest and greatest analysis. But it's not going to make any difference if the drive isn't there. So I think the drive and the motivation is the number one piece. And so working as a practitioner, whether I'm working with development athletes or elite athletes, you can't take for granted with elite athletes that they want to be there. You really have to be motivating. You can't just assume they're going to self-motivate, and that is super true for development athletes as well.
Right.
Whether it's like a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, whatever it might be. So being super motivating through that process. And yes, it is really valuable trying to get the technique right. A sport like swimming, especially, where technique it's so important. If you can reduce your resistance as you're swimming and you can be more efficient with your strokes of the water, you'll be better. And there's nobody's perfect by any means. So every athlete has room for improvement. They can always continue to tweak and get a little bit better, especially in swimming. It's easy to find technical faults in anybody if you look at the right places. So everybody can improve, and if we can instill better habits at a younger age, then you're definitely way better off. You're going to lead to a better result down the line. I just come back to that caveat that some people want to be there and some people don't. So you've got to be motivating, and you've got to be a coach no matter what if you're providing any kind of service to younger athletes.
Right. Or find a really simple checklist to say, these are the ones that want to be here and these are the ones that don't. And then maybe we can apply some of that way. Really cool, man.
Keeping it simple. That's my other thing, is keeping it simple. And that's like, even with
the athletes. So, my headphones just died.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple and just, and that, I think that's super true for younger athletes as well. It's just making sure that it's like really simple. There's very little room for interpretation. That if you give them an answer, you give them a piece of feedback, that it's like very direct and very unambiguous.
Yep. I'm guilty of over talking 1,000% when I'm explaining things, because I get so geeked up about it. I just get really excited, and then I go off on 14 tangents, trying to rein that back in. These talks have helped, because just listening to you know, again, like keeping it simple with your knowledge base, and you're not out there to prove how much you know. You're there to make impact by contextualizing all that you do know and all that you've housed in terms of your background, which is it's obvious in terms of listening to you speak and sort of following your career through your bio and that kind of thing. So, hey, we're getting close to an hour here, so I'm not going to keep you too long because I know sleep is probably a thing that's not happening every single night with an 11-month-old. If anybody has any questions for Ryan, please feel free to type those into the chat box now. Oh, yeah, there it is. I've been getting a couple messages actually. I almost missed my opportunity. There's one incredibly important question that I need to ask you that you will go on record for the rest of your life with your answer. So just be cautious. In this COVID time, have you watched Tiger King or no?
Oh yeah. Early days.
Easy,
yeah.
yes.
Probably
Early days.
like the first couple weeks after it came out. I've actually forgot about it. I forgot that it was even a thing. It was so long ago.
Yeah, this is it. See, I'm outdated by asking the question, but I started asking it because I didn't know anything about it. That was the original impetus for asking. And then it just became a thing. So that's like, I think that makes it 20-13. We're on a long string of yeses right now. So I don't know if somebody's going to say no pretty soon, but you just grew the lead to definitely its biggest lead of these chats anyway. If anybody else has questions, please feel free to pop those in. Everybody for being here, really appreciate it. I think, Nathan, thanks for letting me know. I'm on the iPad and I just assumed it was going to record, but I had to hit record because it's not the regular thing. So the first little bit will be a little bit choppy, but this is session 23 of Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable. Ryan Atkison is our guest. Wow, what a career, man. And so you went from London, you went east and you went west and you went all over the world. What's your favorite place away from home that you've been that you've traveled to? Let's say outside of Canada. Let's go outside of Canada for work. Have you? I don't know. It's a tough one. Been everywhere.
My favorite city is Barcelona.
Okay.
Favorite place that I've been is Zermatt in Switzerland, where the Matterhorn is, like on the Toblerone bar. That is amazing. Amazing.
And Toblerone bars are really good too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. How about in Canada? You're happy where you're at right now? Scarborough's beautiful. Get to the grass every day if you can. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at this time, like I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now, like having just like space, the yard and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I'm very grateful for where we are, where we live. I mean, I loved Whistler, but it was appropriate at the time, and it was cool to be able to, have a ski pass for work, so you could just leave work at 2 p.m. and just catch the last lift up to top to bottom at the end of the day, and you're set. Or do like an 8 a.m. meeting on the chairlift. That was always good as well.
Beautiful.
Do like a top to bottom, and then you're good. But yeah, and then I mean, I love Halifax as well. It's really hard to say. I love and yeah, I'll go on the record saying I love any place that has good beer and good friendly people.
There you go.
Sounds fine.
There you go.
That's really all it takes.
I know a few of those places. We were living in a place for a couple of years. Anyway, we can talk about that at another time. The stuff related to sort of characteristics of your mentors or people that you really respect in the field and that you've worked with in the field that stand out. Maybe let's bias this a little bit to athletic therapists. What qualities of people do you find are really beneficial in your realm, where you're with developmental and then all the way up to sort of like your highest level athletes? What works? What doesn't work?
Being open-minded, super important. I've worked with a couple of athletic therapists along the way in different sports, but in swimming specifically would be the most recent ones. And I'd say in some cases, coming in, my bias or my understanding of athletic therapy was that it was very much looking at supporting acute injuries and the rehab and rehab from acute injuries. And in the immediate support on the field of play. And I've quickly learned that there's some really good ATs out there who are amazing at preventative exercise, who really know the ins and outs, really good soft tissue skills, Yeah, and just really have that holistic picture of athlete development, and that's and I really respect that. And so yeah, that open-mindedness, the ability and the willingness to ask questions, not assume that know everything. The best practitioners I've worked with have those skills. Is really, yeah, that they're hungry, they're humble, and they're smart. They're willing to be a team player, help out when needed. But if you have that extra arrogance or not super open-minded, and you'll rub people the wrong way, and you won't be an effective team player, and you're not going to go very far if you're just doing it by yourself. And
right.
The more you can piggyback yourself onto really good teams and people working in good teams, I think that really helps. What did you say? Scott said it's not getting people to know you, it's getting people to know your value. And so if they like you and they get a chance to work with you a little more closely, they'll get to know your value. But it's really about being open-minded, being humble with what you do. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Amazing insight. And you touch even on the skills like soft tissue skills and some of those things that go right alongside the characteristics and the personality traits. That's massive for all of us to hear and all of us to acknowledge too. There is a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. So those are two yeses in your yes or no simplified version of of what an AT needs. Definitely some skills and definitely a personality that works and willingness to do all the things that you said. I'm 100% agreeing, and just like I'm writing all these notes down so that I can continue to work in all these areas. Great question came in. Do you have a go-to or a must-have technology or program or a favorite that you rely on more than others, or are they different for each sport that you've worked?
When I was like starting out, I'd say the first couple of years, I used to use this program called Dartfish on the computer, and it was just like, it's the only program that could do what we needed it to do. So you could record a video and play back a video at the same time. And that was really, at the time, that was super valuable. And then you could categorize everything. It was just really good for libraries and being organized. And I'd say like from 2012, 2013 onwards, it just kind of became obsolete. It was no longer as user-friendly as other tools. And so I find myself using just like my iPhone pretty often for video capture, whether it's like with a specific program or just like the regular camera app, because it I think it's the iPhone 8 or above, they all have the image stabilization, so it looks pretty smooth, pretty good quality video. You can get high frame rates, you can look at slow motion. And yeah, so that's simple. I like simple. I like keeping it simple, and I like when the people who I'm working with understand the technology. So the less time I have to explain it, the better. And so if it's just the camera app and the iPhone taking a video, and most people know how to work with that. So it's just a really, really good way. Coach's Eye is just a simple video program that I've used, but not for drawing any angles, just for being able to put a timestamp on the video and then being able to scrub along to get some basic times if we want to get like time in the air on a jump, for example, or reaction time from a signal to leaving a block on a start, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And how about drawing lines and some of like those more technical programs? Are there any good ones out there, or any that jump out? You don't have to plug them, obviously.
I don't use it. I don't do it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Perfect.
I don't do it. So yeah, Coach's Eye would be one that does that. I use a program called Objectives Video on my Mac. It's like $100-something, and it does what I need it to do. But really, like, all I'm interested in having like a time code. And yeah, sometimes being able to draw a line for a reference point, but I trust my eye pretty well now. And if I need to go back and look at something, I can either overlay or do some basic comparisons and figure out which one's different or which one's better. But yeah, like I find that the farther along I've gone in my career, the less and less I feel a need to be super anal with like setting things up exactly the right way for the ultimate data collection. And that's probably why I'm going into like more of the management side and less into like the technical expertise, because I don't really, I'm not interested in gathering data to do research publications. I'm interested in gathering data to help athlete performance. And those two can go hand in hand, but in the sports that I work with, immediacy is paramount. So I need to be able to provide immediate feedback that's accurate, that's valid, that's reliable, and it's valuable and relevant to the athlete. So that's what I focus on. And if something can't do that for me, then I'm not going to use it.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very straightforward, very simple. I love it. For me, that makes a ton of sense. And I spend a lot of time in baseball, which is sort of similar to swimming in that, technique goes a long way, and definitely coming back to the conversation we've talked about, underlaying or underpinning the foundation of technique at younger ages saves people down the line and also creates better athletes down the line in terms of effectiveness and efficiencies. On a similar note, the coaches' eyes are used tremendously in baseball, and it's amazing. Like these lifers or these coaches that have been in baseball for years and years and years and years, what they can capture with their eye, it may not be the most sound technical terminology that they use to explain it. It almost gets crucified by the usage of technology that ends up saying a similar thing at the end of the day anyway. Yeah. And then you end up with this massive fishnet of data trying to make something of it when you're using so much technology that you sort of you end up looking for something that may or may not even exist in that giant scope of capturing data. So yeah, really cool, really great answer. I don't think I have any other. Let me just check this. This iPad thing is hard to work with. This is me and technology. Yeah, man. So really, really appreciate your time, your insight, Ryan. This has been great. Session 23, Let's Chat and Athletic Therapy Roundtable. Appreciate you being on here. Love to have you on here again in the future, or if and when this allows us to get together and have one of those Great Lakes Brewery beers, we can do that too. Everybody else for being here, really appreciate it. This has been exactly what it needs to be, connecting with practitioners that we may not be able to connect with, putting a face to a name and a bio, and then hearing the ins and outs of how you got to where you got to, and what are the most important things for you in working with other human beings in this performance world. So again, Ryan, really appreciate it. Congratulations again on the semi-newborn, almost a year on him walking. So I'm sure you got him on some iPhone video doing some things, working on some gait pattern or something in the next couple months.
Not surprisingly, yes.
yeah, exactly. Don't hold their hands. I think that's a thing we all want to do, but just let them go and see what happens. No. But not to minimize you taking your time out to chat with us, man. Really appreciate it. And I'll wish you a good night, and we will talk soon. Everybody else, if you're willing to stay on, I'll be here for a couple minutes to take a couple more questions. Sunday night will be a duo of soccer players, one playing for the York 9 FC and another who is moved away from soccer at the end of his university career and is an exercise physiologist and teaches as well at Humber. So two of them will be on here Sunday night. So everybody, really appreciate you being here. Ryan, thank you again, and good night. I will talk to you all soon.
Have a good night.
I think I can stop this thing. All right. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.